Today, people dream about comfort before they are willing to endure struggle. Everyone wants peace, success, and stability, but very few are willing to pay the price of discipline, sacrifice, and hard work required to earn them. But in 1900 America, one man discovered a truth that would shape the rest of his life forever. The effort you endure today can become the peace you enjoy tomorrow. In the freezing winter of 1900, in the small mining town of Butte, Montana, a 19-year-old young man named Joseph Walker woke before sunrise every morning to the sound of iron wheels grinding against frozen tracks outside his tiny wooden home. The air was bitterly cold, and smoke from nearby factories darkened the morning sky long before daylight appeared. Joseph's family was poor. Not poor in the temporary way people sometimes describe hardship, but truly poor. His father had once worked in the copper mines until a tunnel collapse permanently damaged his leg. Since then, he could no longer perform heavy labor. Joseph's mother washed clothes for wealthier families in town, working endlessly just to keep food on the table. From a young age, Joseph understood something many people never learn. No one was coming to rescue them. At 19, while other young men dreamed about adventure or easy success, Joseph spent his days deep underground inside dangerous copper mines. The work was brutal. Men descended into darkness before dawn and often returned long after sunset covered in dirt, sweat, and exhaustion. The mines were unforgiving. Cave-ins happened without warning. Toxic air made breathing difficult. Explosions echoed through narrow tunnels where a single mistake could kill dozens of workers instantly. Yet Joseph rarely complained, because every dollar he earned mattered. Every hour of suffering meant food for his family, medicine for his father, warmth during winter. Still, there were moments when even Joseph questioned whether the struggle was worth it. One evening, after an exhausting 14-hour shift, Joseph sat silently near a small fire outside the workers' quarters while older miners talked nearby. "We work ourselves to death," one muttered bitterly. "And for what?" Another laughed coldly. "The rich get comfortable while we stay buried underground." Joseph listened quietly. Part of him agreed. Life felt unfair. The harder he worked, the more distant comfort seemed to become. But across the fire sat an older miner named Samuel Briggs, a man respected throughout the town for surviving nearly 30 years in the mines. His face was rough from decades of labor, and his hands carried scars from countless injuries. Samuel looked directly at Joseph. "Young men always want results too quickly," he said calmly. Joseph frowned. "How long are we supposed to suffer before life improves?" Samuel placed another piece of wood into the fire before answering. "Long enough to build something stronger than comfort," he replied. Joseph didn't fully understand those words then. But years later, he never forgot them. By 1901, Joseph had become known as one of the hardest workers in the mine. While many workers spent their limited wages carelessly in saloons or gambling halls after shifts, Joseph lived differently. He saved. Every coin mattered to him. He repaired his own clothes instead of buying new ones. He avoided unnecessary spending. And after work, while others rested, Joseph often studied basic engineering books borrowed from a local church library. Most people laughed at him. A miner reading books, workers joked. But Joseph ignored them. Because deep down, he had begun to understand something important. Temporary comfort often destroys long-term peace. One spring afternoon in 1902, disaster struck the mine. A partial collapse trapped several workers underground after unstable support beams failed deep inside one of the tunnels. Panic spread quickly across the town as rescue teams struggled to reach the trapped men. Joseph was among the workers inside during the collapse. For hours, darkness surrounded them completely. Dust filled the air, and fear spread rapidly among the trapped miners. Some men panicked, others lost hope. But Joseph remained calm. Over months of hard work and careful observation, he had learned how the support structures inside the mine functioned. Using that knowledge, he helped organize the trapped miners, directing them away from unstable sections while assisting rescuers from below. Nearly 12 hours later, the trapped miners were finally rescued safely. The incident changed everything. Mine supervisors began noticing Joseph's intelligence, discipline, and ability to stay focused under pressure. Soon after, he was offered a safer position assisting engineering inspectors above ground. For the first time in years, Joseph saw a path forward, not through luck, not through shortcuts, but through years of unseen effort. By 1904, Joseph had saved enough money to enroll in a technical training program in Denver, Colorado. Leaving Montana behind was difficult, but he carried Samuel Briggs' words with him everywhere he went. Build something stronger than comfort. In Denver, life remained difficult. Joseph worked during the day and studied at night. Many evenings he slept only a few hours before beginning again. But slowly, his sacrifices began creating opportunities. He learned mechanical systems, structural design, and industrial safety procedures, knowledge that became increasingly valuable as America expanded rapidly during the early 20th century. By the late 1900s decade, Joseph Walker was no longer a poor miner struggling to survive underground. He had become a respected industrial engineer overseeing mining safety operations across several western states. People admired his success, but very few understood what it had cost him. The exhaustion, the loneliness, the discipline.
the years of invisible struggle no one applauded. One autumn evening in 1910, Joseph returned briefly to Butte, Montana. The mining town looked almost unchanged, smoke rising into the cold sky, workers moving through muddy streets, trains carrying copper eastward across the country. Outside the old workers' quarters, Joseph found Samuel Briggs sitting quietly beside a fire once again, now much older and weaker than before. Samuel smiled faintly when he recognized him. "You made it out?" he said. Joseph nodded. "Because of what you taught me?" Samuel shook his head gently. "No," he replied. "Because you were willing to suffer today for a better tomorrow." The words stayed with Joseph for the rest of his life. Years later, when young workers asked him the secret behind his success, Joseph always gave a simple answer. Peace is expensive, and hard work is often the price. Today, people often chase comfort too early. Many give up the moment life becomes difficult, expecting fast success without sacrifice. Social status, entertainment, and temporary pleasure distract people from building real stability for the future. But more than a century ago, deep inside the dangerous copper mines of Montana, one young man discovered something timeless. The struggle you endure today is not always punishment. Sometimes it is preparation. Because when you work with discipline, patience, and purpose, your future self may one day live in the peace your present self fought to create.